the New Arts and Media Studios in Milwaukee. I'm Charles Purcell. This is The Log. I'm going to try to do a little rapid fire here. I want to get through a lot of stuff. First of all, the third attempt at a ceasefire resolution at the United Nations failed, vetoed by the United States. So pretty much the whole world community, the whole United Nations community wants a ceasefire. They're demanding that Israel be responsible and stop this horrible genocide. They're criminals on the world stage. There's just no way around it. But the U.S. has veto power, so it's not like the UN is going to send troops in and go to war with Netanyahu. I mean, that's not what we're talking about. But yeah, it would be nice to have the United Nations in one unified voice declare the attack on Gaza for what it is. And they have done that now 3 times, but not officially because the United States keeps vetoing it because they have that veto power. So, yeah, Genocide Joe earning his nickname. They keep telling us how tough he's being behind the scenes. And he does say things in public, like I use the phrase over the top. No. Over the top is not an expression I would use. Over the top is Nathan Lane on a talk show. He goes a little over the top sometimes. Anyway. So, yeah, that's happening. Israel, Netanyahu, the IDF, vowing to conduct their long-promised ground assault on Rafah in southern Gaza, about as far south as you can go. And, you know the story. The Palestinians were told to go south, evacuate, go where it's safe, but then they bombed them wherever they are. Now they're threatening Rafah unless Hamas releases hostages. They're giving them a deadline by Ramadan. Israel has threatened to invade Gaza's southernmost city of Rafah by the Muslim holy month of Ramadan, which begins March 10th, if the remaining hostages are not released. Netanyahu vowed to, quote, finish the job in Gaza. And we know what that means. When he says finish the job, he means complete annihilation. And he pretty much just comes out and says it. So I'm not sure what you and I can do about it except continue to holler and yell if there's a protest, if there's a demonstration in your neighborhood, in your city, in your state. Go and holler. The things we can do. Go visit your representative, tell them what you feel, make the phone calls, write the postcards. It's all so damn boring, but what can we do? There's no two sides to this. I'm not defending the attack of October 7th by Hamas. Of course not. I'm not defending the taking of hostages. I'm just seeing what's right in front of all of our noses. It's just right there for us all to see. The violence, of the obscenity of it all. And now the food, I think this just happened today. The Israeli-Gaza war, let's see, I'm reading a headline. World Food Program stops deliveries to northern Gaza. Now we can't even get food, for God's sakes. The whole humanitarian aid thing was already up beyond all recognition. But even more so now, the World Food Program has paused life-saving food deliveries to northern Gaza, reading now from the BBC, saying aid convoys had endured complete chaos and violence due to the collapse of civil order. The agency says the decision has not been taken lightly and crews had faced crowds, gunfire, and looting. So it's just the humanitarian situation just worsens. It was just announced again, I think today, a report came out that Israeli forces fired on a food convoy in Gaza. This is from the United Nations investigation. UN documents and satellite analysis reveals that on February 5th, Israeli forces fired on a United Nations convoy carrying vital food supplies in central Gaza. So, yeah, when they're destroying hospitals, there's barely a single hospital that's functional right now in all of Gaza. So yeah, when the IDF is invading hospitals and when bombs are being rained down on food convoys, what else can be said? So this continues to work through the International Court of Justice, and we'll see where that goes. But yeah, this is an everyday situation, and I really wish our government would just stand right up. Good old Bernie Sanders, he's the only one in that whole town. He got up and said not one damn nickel to Israel while this continues. And that whole thing about aid to Israel and aid to Ukraine and border policy, all in this wrapped up in the same bill. I don't know if you and I talked about that very much, but I've said for years, if you know me, I've said for years that I can't stand it when different issues get crammed into the same bill. That's just not a good way to do things. And then there's all the horse trading and will you give me what I need and I'll scratch your back and blah, blah, blah. It's all bullshit. One issue, one bill, vote it up or down, and then take the consequences at election time. Just tell everybody what you mean. And Bernie Sanders says, no, not one more nickel to Israel while this continues. Of course, that should be everybody's position. All right. Okay. Getting angry already. Speaking of Ukraine. All right. So, well, yeah, a direct effect now from this logjam in the United States Congress. There's a direct link being made. I don't know if this is true or not. I'm just little me with my little podcast. But I'm hearing reports there's a direct link between the recent developments on the battlefield and this delay of aid coming from the United States. Because for the first time now in the war, which has been going on for a couple of years, the Russians are having a distinct advantage in the skies. Russia apparently got control of the skies before seizing victory in a frontline fight, and it could be devastating for Ukraine if it continues, war experts say. Let me give credit here. That's from the Insider. So, yeah, Russia was apparently able to establish air superiority over Avdiivka, and mainly it's because Ukraine is running out of missiles, munitions, the surface-to-air missiles that throughout the duration of this war so far has been a very successful component of the Ukrainian cause. And my thinking continues to evolve. It's evolved over time. I used to be just a straight up pacifist, but, I'm all for defensive capabilities. A surface to air missiles to shoot down the rockets that are coming after you. I mean, there's a pretty clear offense and defense here. Russia is the invader. For Ukraine, it's all about defense. And the evolution of my thinking is, you know what? I'm not a pacifist when it comes to defense. If you need missiles to shoot down the rockets, if you need those surface-to-air missiles, well, then we better damn well provide them. I'm not a pacifist when it comes to that. It's about defense. So things are not going well in Ukraine. The Ukrainians, God love them, they're holding up, but they've been faltering in recent days and weeks here. So anyway, that's what's going on there. And speaking of Russia here, Russia. It was big news for like a day when some committee chair of U.S. Congress made this sort of cryptic announcement about how this very horrible national security crisis is underway, but wouldn't tell us what it was. It was all very weird, that 24-hour news cycle. Well, it turned out that I guess it was discovered that Russia is developing space nukes for taking out satellites. And yeah, we don't want this, but they've been doing this for years, and we've known about it for years. And I don't know why, to tell you the truth. I don't know why it became this big kind of announcement, especially the way it was rolled out. Well, I can't tell you what it is, but it's horrible. But Yeah, according to the military now, we've seen since, there's been some reporting that, yeah, this is nothing really that new. There have been developments like this over decades, and it's a little back and forth of people promising to deploy particular space contingencies, and, it's Dr. Strangelove. If you haven't seen the movie Dr. Strangelove, what is wrong with you? Every good American has to see Dr. Strangelove. So I'm not going to lose any sleep over that. There's plenty of other things to lose sleep over. And the space nukes story got pretty much preempted by the Alexei Navalny story, which, of course, Russian dissident, main and kind of only rival to Putin politically, was killed. Officials told his widow that he died of sudden death syndrome, so they don't even make things up very well. And this is, it's what they do. It was just within the last year or so, they bumped off Prigozhin. Remember that? The head of the Wagner Group or Wagner Group? Kind of a pseudo-private military. Yeah, Prigozhin was bumped off. Just this week, a Russian pilot who had defected to Ukraine was found shot dead in Spain. I'm not sure what he was doing in Spain. So, yeah, they just find you and shoot you. And then just today they arrested a U.S.-Russian citizen. She has dual citizenship, I guess. They arrested her for treason. So she's in the clink because she gave $51 to a Ukrainian charity. Yeah, you heard me right. $51. Allegedly. CNN reporting. Russia's Federal Security Service said the detainee, a 33-year-old woman who lives in Los Angeles, was arrested in the Russian city of Yekaterinburg. Yekaterinburg. For providing financial assistance to a foreign state in activities directed against Russia's security. Good God. This is just what they do. They arrest basketball stars, and that's what they do. And they're not alone. Russia and its particular form of autocracy is just having a moment. It's a right-wing movement. They're just having a high old time. There's a fascist movement in Germany, of all places, that's just really causing worry. Massive mobilization against the far-right alternative for Germany and the fight against fascism. Yeah, the fascists in Germany are on the rise, and the lefties have got to meet the moment. This is an international phenomenon. And there are, everywhere, there's right and there's left and there's conservative and progressive. And, it's not like we're unique over here. These political fights happen everywhere. Well, I often talk about how there's really no left in America. The leftist parties in other parts of the world are more representative of actual left ideology. But wherever you go, Greece, Spain, there was just news coming, I think it was out of France today. There was some big protests, and yeah, this sort of battle is happening. I'm not sure what the latest is on the big farmer protest in India, where Modi's government has cracked down pretty violently. Tens of thousands of police and paramilitaries putting down the protests of farmers because they're demanding some justice. And Modi, cracking down. Modi, just one of the many sort of autocrats out there. El Salvador just elected a new guy who was quoted as describing himself as, quote, the world's coolest dictator. Yeah, oh no, he was reelected. Yeah, he's been around a while, and he's gained some popularity because he's turned the violence around. I guess El Salvador was one of the more violent places on earth, and not so much anymore. He cracked down. But he's doing it in a way that right-wingers in America kind of like. Democracy, no, we don't need that. Let's just get tough. Let's just get really tough, and let's be autocratic. Let's be a dictator. Nobody ever denied that dictators can't get things done. Yeah, dictators can get things done. The Nazis, they built some really nice railroads, and they built the Autobahn, and yeah, dictators can get things done. Nobody's ever denied that. But that's going to be your choice? So, I guess the real reason I wanted to mention these things is because there really seems to be a popularity contest that they're winning with a lot of people, including a lot of people right here in the good old USA. People like Tucker Carlson, who just went to Russia, sits down and lets Vladimir Putin give him a half-hour history lesson filled with lies and propaganda. I mean, that's the oldest trick in the book. Russia has always done this, that certain faction over there. They lie about history. I mean, this is just perfectly in sort of the Trump right-wing GOP wheelhouse. If you saw any of that or read anything about that Tucker Carlson interview with Putin, it's just disgusting. Just this softball, and then Tucker goes out and visits the subway, and he's going around Russia and going around Moscow saying how great it is, and basically saying it's, their system is better than ours. And it's more than just talk. There's this real sort of exchange going on. Check this out. Reading from The Intellectualist, Russia plans safe space village for American conservatives. I mean, this is the world we're in right now. Russia is reportedly constructing a village outside Moscow, specifically designed for conservative-minded Americans and Canadians. This initiative, as reported by the New Republic, seems to be an extension of Russia's efforts to cultivate ties with American conservatives amidst its ongoing invasion of Ukraine and the resulting divided stance within the American Republican Party. Let's see. According to state media, the village aims to accommodate around 200 families seeking to emigrate for ideological reasons. And there's Tucker Carlson giving a little tour of Moscow, telling us how great it is. I mean, how weird is this? We go from the great Cold Warrior Ronald Reagan to what we have now, with Jim Jordan and Matt Gaetz in Congress and Tucker Carlson on your TV and Donald Trump about to win the GOP nomination. Russia all over the 2016 election, even though Trump and Barr lied about the Mueller report. So, yeah, Russia has a clear interest in our elections. They know what works for them. They are aligned with American conservatives because the old right-left divide over sort of communism versus capitalism, that's all over. Now it's all just about, who can hate LGBTQ people more? Who can be more conservative? It's cultural conservative. And right-wingers in the U.S. have been very open about their disdain for democracy for a long, long time. It's been a couple, 3 decades now. I hear from people all the time, oh, well, it's their favorite line. United States is not a democracy. We're a republic. They don't like democracy. They equate democracy with mob rule. And it's just all about this sort of ethno-nationalist, Christian nationalist garbage based purely on self-interest and on bigotry and on, keeping what's mine. Sure, some people do very well. See, that's the thing. In a dictatorship, in an autocracy, some of the population does just fine. Thanks very much. Just like in the United States, a lot of people just doing great. And in Russia, several people just doing great. All you have to do is give up your freedom. That's all right. After Navalny was killed and it was announced, the next day over 400 people just plucked off the streets, arrested for putting flowers on a memorial, for just going out to show support or to grieve. They're arrested. And this is right in Trump's playbook, the GOP playbook. If and when, God forbid, they take over the reins of power again, if they take the White House and Congress, Protest? Can't protest. No. They want to come. If I ever had any success with this podcast, if it was more than just you and me, because pretty much now it's just you and me and a couple of other people. But on the off chance I had any success, I wouldn't stand a chance with them. I'd be arrested. I'd be silenced. So yeah, I mean, right-wing fascism in the United States is just, again, they're just having a moment. Here, let me just run down some headlines that I've seen recently. Let's see. Prisoners in the U.S. are part of a hidden workforce linked to hundreds of popular food brands. There's a new wave of new bills to define anti-Semitism in these 3 states. They could become law. And don't think for a second they have anything to do with anti-Semitism. It's all about limiting free speech on the left. You can't have any sympathy at all for Palestine. No, you can't do that. Another headline here. Florida legislation proposes categorizing accusations of racism, sexism, homophobia, and transphobia as defamation. So it's more dangerous. So it's somehow more dangerous to call out racism, sexism, homophobia, and transphobia than to be a racist, sexist, or homophobe or transphobe. You understand this? How backwards this is. Iowa Republicans forward bill to force students to stand for the national anthem. That's what? This is the most un-American. We are backsliding at a rate I just never imagined. And I've got a pretty good imagination. Tennessee state legislature passes bill to allow LGBTQ marriage discrimination. Oklahoma death of 9. Oh my God, this one. This kid. This high school kid, Nex Benedict is their name, non-binary. Oklahoma just passed one of the damn stupid bathroom laws, which I thought we had put that behind us like 10 years ago. But like I said, they're having a moment. So they signed one of these damn bathroom laws just last year. And this kid is getting bullied at school because they're non-binary and winds up dead. Gets beat up. I mean, we got like an Emmett Till situation going on here. The mainstream press, when did this happen? It was like a couple of weeks ago. Mainstream press didn't pick it up until just the last couple of days. It was in LGBTQ press. There's media that kind of concentrates on these issues, but the mainstream press, I've only seen it now here in the last couple of days. Owasso, Oklahoma. Yeah. 16-year-old kid, Nex Benedict, beaten up by students at this school, smashed their head in. Apparently, according to police, the school resource officer didn't do anything. There was a great delay. They didn't call for help, and the kid wound up dead in the hospital the next day. So this is where we're at right now. They are having a moment. The bad guys are winning. Nikki Haley, who's still running for president, spoke out just today. I'm recording this on Wednesday afternoon. That she's in support of the Alabama Supreme Court, who just ruled that embryos are babies, and they'll be treated as such by law. Yes, embryos to me are babies, quote Nikki Haley, the so-called establishment reasonable Republican. Yeah, there's no such thing as a reasonable GOP. That's all done. We're all done with that. They continue with this ridiculous attack on Joe and Hunter Biden, even though this FBI informant was shown to be a fraud. I think just today one of the committees, the Judiciary Committee, is holding closed-door meetings with President Joe's brother. You remember how this all started, right? I mean, the first time we heard about this was the first impeachment. Was Trump trying to shake down Ukraine to get some dirt on Joe, which didn't exist. And he said, well, it doesn't matter if it exists or not. Just say that it does. We'll do the rest. And then he ran that exact same play. When it failed there, then he went to Senator Ron Johnson, my senator, I'm ashamed to admit, of Wisconsin, said, hey, put together some congressional hearings on this. Just make it look real bad. We'll do the rest. Sure, it's not real, but yeah. Then he had, when Rudy was still his lawyer and not bankrupt yet, he had Rudy running around with, remember those two goons he had working for him, running around Ukraine trying to dig up dirt. And they knew it's not there, or they hoped it would be there. Maybe they could find some, but they didn't really care that if it was real or not. Just make it happen. And now Jim Jordan and Matt Gaetz in Congress and Marjorie Taylor Greene and the House Oversight Committee and the Judiciary Committee, now they're carrying Trump's water pail, and it's the exact same game. Just look for dirt, and if you can't find any, just kind of make it look like it just, there's nothing there. So yeah, it's just all about right-wing fascism. That's just the bottom line for this whole thing. There's the culture war side of it, and there's the governing side of it. The Orange Menace, is it going to install, if it's not official yet, it looks like it's going to be any day now, or at least after this next primary coming up, going to install one of his election denier thugs as the chair of RNC, along with his daughter-in-law, Laura Trump, as co-chair. So yeah, from top to bottom, the culture war stuff, the economic stuff, crackdown on violence, homophobia, bigotry, misogyny, racist, they are on fire. So I'm going to kind of break my promise from last week. I told you we would talk about presidential elections. I guess it's kind of time to do that. Let's do that next time. I'm going to make that same promise again. Let's pick it up next week and get more into the specifics of presidential politics. Ezra Klein of the New York Times, he's got a pretty decent podcast that I listen to. He's a little mainstream, but he's smart. I'll give him that. He's got a really interesting couple of episodes recently on what if President Joe decides to bow out, and what would that look like? Really interesting if you want to go back and listen to that, and we'll talk about it next week, along with other news about the elections. Wisconsin got their new maps, which is great news. I have some thoughts about that. We haven't talked much about the trials of the Orange Menace, and I think it's time we should probably do some of that too. So I'll try not to break my promises. We really should get to some of that kind of election conversation, especially on the presidential level, next week. All right. For now, let me just say thanks for listening. Of course, this program can be heard on any number of podcast platforms, so go find it there, or go to the website, charlespurcell.com. Everything is there, all the shows. Thanks to our flagship terrestrial station, River West Radio, riverwestradio.com. You can contact me, Charles Purcell, at Gmail, or follow on Facebook. And for writing and performing our theme song, thanks to Peter Donalds. All right, there it is. This is The Log. I'm Charles Purcell.